Hey guys, this video is going to be both parts of the WeirdBirds saga combined for those who just want to watch it in one video. From what a few of you have mentioned, part 3 is currently in the making, which is awesome to be honest. Once that's finished, I'll try my best to cover it as quickly as possible. A lot of you would have noticed that my videos have been uploaded way later than I usually do, and that's because this week has been really hectic for me with the DMV and all of that. Rest assured the schedule is going to return to normal next week, and thanks to the suggestions of so many of you in the comments, I got a full list of analog horror I'm going to be covering, so be prepared for that. Anyway, thanks for your patience guys, I'll let you get on with the video.
Who loves you?
Is that a child?
Wait.
Okay. I'm hurting.
Oh no. It killed the mother and her child and is using their voices to kill more. What have I got myself into? This is probably the most requested topic I've ever had thrown at me since the start of the channel. Even when I was doing those strongest dinosaur debates back in the day, I didn't get nearly as much requests as this. So here I am, finally going to be reviewing Weird Birds, since it's what a lot of you wanted to see ever since I started doing analog horror videos, and some of you really wanted to see it, to say the least. I'm not going to lie, I used to see a few pictures of this ARG here and there a while ago and thought nothing of it. You know, it was just a few vague pictures of scary looking dinosaurs. But boy was I wrong. This Twitter ARG has more lore than a lot of things I've ever seen, and I'm glad you guys pushed me to review it. Some of the deaths in this Twitter thread actually ruined my day. The mastermind behind this is Arkasukas. I hope I didn't say your name wrong. I'll leave his link in the description below so you guys can check out the original post for yourselves. It's really interesting. This ARG has 2 parts. In this upload I'll be reviewing part 1. Part 2 will be in another upload this week. Why you may ask? Well, it's because I'm extremely busy this week and can't edit a 40+ minute long video at once. But strap in folks, we got child abducting menaces that copy the voices of whoever they kill, all the way to straight up monsters that would split their jaws in 4 different parts. Just before we get into it, only around 15% of you who watch these videos are subscribed, so do me a favor and hit the buttons down below, as it is the best way to support the channel. And hey, if you watch to the end and don't like the content, you could always revoke that subscription. There's also a Discord link down below for you guys to join if you're interested. With the little intro over, let's get right into it. Right out of the gate, we're introduced to an image of some sort of raptor looking through the window of a house. The main character, so to speak, in this ARG is called Chicago Guy by the author, or at least that's what I think he's called. Anyway, his dog alerted him of this arrow-headed hellspawn at the window and he took a picture which spooked the animal and it fled. When Chicago Guy was having a garage sale, his neighbor's little son drew a picture of the animals he saw. It appears to be a raptor and his offspring hunting a rabbit, and what appears to be a bat, but it actually isn't, and I'll get into that later. As he was taking his dog out for a wee, he heard the calls of an animal and saw its eyes vaguely illuminated in the darkness. He managed to record the animals and it sounds like what you think a raptor would. Weirdly enough, our boy left the back door unlocked for a while, and when he came back, the chicken he bought from the store was missing. But before he could do anything else, he heard the handle moving and managed to take a snap picture of the animal behind the patio couch. And it fled again. Now this is where things start to get dark and where I would immediately sell the house or invest in a minigun. This time the animal puts out its neck right next to the kitchen window, but when the picture is taken, it does not flee. It just stays there looking at the guy. It got accustomed to the flash way too quickly and dropped all of its fear. In real life, this is the most dangerous animal, one that doesn't fear people anymore, which is why, as sad as it is, you see animals like alligators and leopards who aren't afraid of humans anymore being put down, despite them not killing anyone yet. Here we get a description of the animal's overall proportions by Chicago Guy. It appears to be a little over 5 feet tall. Most would immediately say, oh, it's a Utahraptor based on the height, but I don't think so. Its head fits the shape more of an Austroraptor, which actually matches the height description. For those saying I'm looking too deep into it and that it's still probably a Utahraptor, without spoiling too much, in part 2 there's another dromaeosaur that's bigger and actually looks like a Utahraptor, or to be honest, this could just be a Achilobator. We now cut to the 24th of September 2023, where the Chicago Guy found some sort of pellet in his yard. Whatever animal it came from, it was big. He found some stuff like a turtle cranium, which again kinda aligns with Austroraptor because of its hunting locations. Whatever it was, it left 2-toed footprints in the backyard. We cut to nighttime and see these adorable little dinosaurs illuminated by the patio light, probably the offspring of the raptors. They were pulling at something and blood started to gush out. Chicago Guy had to vomit and called the police as he discovers that it's a child's foot on his patio. After seeing this, he went to recheck the pellets and found the button of a kid's shirt in it, but before he can come back and look, the child's severed foot was gone. Then we start to get an idea of whose foot it exactly was. When Chicago Guy went to check up on his neighbors, they weren't home, but the lights were on. And then we see this crumpled up drawing found on the sidewalk. It's the 6-year-old boy's drawing, showing him feeding the raptors hot dogs, and there's a small pterosaur in the background too. But regardless, I think you guys know whose foot was found. The animal viewed the kid as a source of food and took him, and from what it looks like, the dad as well. There was also a trail of feathers left on the back door, outside of which is kinda odd, especially with how neatly they were lined up. The raptors are getting more confident and started full on vocalizing outside of his window in unison. He heard the noises on the roof again, but whatever it was, he wisely did not investigate too much, as it looked spindly. Not sure what it could be other than some sort of pterosaur. Speaking of pterosaurs, he found a little anorognathus on his door. It honestly looks so adorable. It's a pterosaur, so it couldn't give me rabies. I would have 100% yoinked it. The raptors are now straight up targeting Chicago Guy, speaking to him in hopes of luring him outside. Okay, so I'm not sure if I heard this correctly, because as my regular viewers know, I had an ear infection just over a week ago, and it's still healing, so I don't want to turn up the volume too high on my headphones. But from what I heard, the animals were saying the word hungry. At first I was like, why would they say hungry? I could understand the human voice mimicking thing, but what circumstance could have arisen that would prompt someone to say the word hungry to this thing? Then my heart sank, as I remembered the 6-year-old boy that drew him feeding these things. In the audio it sounds like the raptor is saying, yup, hungry. This could have been the kid telling the raptor that, but in the way kids like to talk, like, yup, are you hungry? And the raptors tried to use that to lure Chicago Guy out, since that specific phrase is used to attract things. We cut back to one of these freaks looking at him through the window, and our boy decides to lock himself in the basement until the day, but his phone is almost dead, and the charger is upstairs. So he takes a dumbbell with him for protection. This is supposed to be a very serious situation, but it made me laugh because I once did something similar. So here's a little extra lore. One time when I was like 9, we had a room with a lot pull down machine, and I was home alone. It was dark despite being only 5 PM. I was looking up how to get abs in 10 minutes and doing sit-ups in the room, and then I heard the window from the kitchen slam open, so I locked myself inside the exercise room. There was no light because my father took the bulb out because it had blown and forgot to put it back in. So I sat there, locked in for like 1 hour. I decided to walk around the room partially blind and got my hands on the tricep extension ropes and equipped them as a weapon to use on whatever I thought was out there, like nunchucks. But needless to say, I bitched out. The moment I went outside, I dashed into my room and locked myself in there and turned on the light. When my parents came back home, I told them what had happened, and they said it was the wind because we lived right next to the sea. So for the sake of my mental health, I believed them as a 9-year-old just to keep my sanity in check. Anyway, our boy ends up in a crawl space because the raptors were in his house upstairs. He managed to escape through a window though and charged his phone with a car charger. Since it's now daytime, he decides to walk around and see something inside the neighbor's porch. It saw him but didn't do anything. As he's walking, we see the head of one of the big raptors. Something ripped its head off. When it turns back to night, he hears what he thinks could be the thing responsible. It sounds deep, sort of like an airplane taking off. Back in his house, he boarded the window and a deer was outside of it with a missing antler. It was wide-eyed in fear and wanted to come inside the house. Whatever was out there made it want human help. Poor guy doesn't last long though, as we hear the buck wailing in pain and the vocalization of the raptors not far behind. This time Chicago Guy hears the voices again and almost fell for it because of just how well it sounded.
Daddy. It's okay. Daddy.
This is honestly so sad. The dromaeosaurs are saying, "Dad, help," and it's okay, I'm here. That was the f***ing child saying, "Dad, help. Daddy," and the father saying, "Okay, it's okay," to comfort his son before they were eaten. Then after that, they left the child's shoes on his patio. Then it clicked to me. These things are straight up using objects to lure humans. It placed the child's severed foot on the guy's patio to make him come outside and investigate. and when he went back inside, they removed it. For all we know, they could have used a trail of feathers for the child like it did Chicago guy to lead the kid away. You know how 6-year-olds are, a bunch of big feathers would make them curious. But the raptors bolt after hearing the big thing come back. Whatever this thing is, it scares the raptors shitless. He ends up barricading himself in the basement with food, water and his phone charger. He wakes up soon but then hears footsteps. We then cut to September the 26th, 2023 and we see a POV of Chicago guy making a run for it outside. Turns out that there were 3 big raptors in his house sniffing him out, so he jumped out of the window and ran towards the forest reserve to camp it out. When he was walking back home, he saw the big thing that terrified the raptors. It was massive, weighing tons. It moved quietly alongside his house despite being so big. Chicago guy heard the bloody screams of a woman not too far away, but didn't do anything because it could have been a trick by the raptors, and I would have thought the same, to be honest. But turns out it was in fact a real woman and he felt really guilty. He figured this out a day or two after the time skip to the 2nd of October. He's been camping in his room for like 3 days and hears breathing outside of his window. He then sees a body shot of the thing responsible for killing the raptors. I thought it was going to be a T-Rex, but it doesn't look like it. It looks more narrow, possibly a Torvosaurus or some sort of Carcharodontosaurus. He then sees a bunch of these black things staring at him, but they do not fear his presence. He picks up a drawing of the face of one of the big raptors and it happens to be a police sketch. Just before he went to sleep, he heard some of these sounds outside, which in a weird way would make me fall asleep faster than the rain noise channels. It's now the next day and his friend was supposed to pick him up 10 hours ago to travel out of state, but never came. As he's walking around, a bunch of strange lights start to appear in his backyard and in the sky. Whenever he gets next to one of them, he gets very ill and his phone glitches. This immediately reminded me of Primeval, where all of these different prehistoric animals would come into our world through rifts in time called anomalies. So I'm assuming that's what these were, some sort of wormhole connecting the past to the present. In somewhat good news, the first responders came. Our guy doesn't answer. They gave what sounded like badge numbers and one even stood outside next to the door just standing there. He couldn't decide if the man outside was a service member or not, and to be honest I kinda would be skeptical too, seeing that there's a bunch of dinosaurs roaming about and he isn't getting torn apart. My first thought would have been some sort of shadow organization being responsible. Eventually the man leaves and Chicago guy finds something much more adorable inside of his house. There was what appeared to be a microraptor sleeping in his dog's bed, so he locked it in the crate and fed it. Weirdly enough, it was very docile and slept on his couch. His name was Mikey, and what Chicago guy needed since he didn't have his dog with him and no other humans. Both him and Mikey were startled awake by gunshots with people, but they soon faded away and we hear some faint dinosaur noises in the background. It spooked Mikey so much that he flew into the ceiling and his footsteps grew more and more distant. We then get this picture, which could possibly be a bunch of microraptors chilling there, because all the noises do sound a bit like Mikey. Chicago guy still hears Mikey wheezing but then hears a bunch of dragging in his ceiling, but sees nothing. The power begins to cut in and out, and with little remaining battery levels he had left on his phone, he recorded the most horrifying audio I've ever heard since reading this.
Look at me. Look at me. Who loves you?
Mom.
Okay?
Mom.
You're gonna be okay.
I'm hurting.
Your brother's gonna be okay.
Chicago guy confirms that no people were in his house. Whatever was up there killed an entire family. You can hear the mom telling her child it's gonna be okay, mommy's okay, as well as the child saying that she's scared. The guy snaps one quick picture of the creature and runs into the crawl space, and we see the sick bastard in all of its glory. There was a raptor in the ceiling. This time Chicago guy genuinely thought he was going to die because the thing scratched at his door and was saying the phrases of the dead mother and child more aggressively. To both his and my surprise, he survived, and we cut to October the 16th, 2023. Chicago guy gets a national emergency message on his phone. There is a mass evacuation and everyone is to arm themselves and contact the authorities for the local assembly point. They straight up also say they don't really know how to deal with the creatures and that regular houses don't repel them. His friend who sent the message sends him a picture of a Monolophosaurus, and Chicago guy tells him to equip himself with a gun and escape to an emergency point, but his friend doesn't think the gun will do much against it since it's bigger than him. There's also no use contacting authorities because all of the lines are busy. There was one guy he saw, but he was wearing the same attire as the one Chicago guy saw, a suit and a little globe. Alright, so I think it's kinda confirmed at this point that these people had something to do with what's going on, or are the secret agency responsible for keeping this type of stuff in check. Because despite them being outside alone, none of them seem to get touched by the dinosaurs, whoever they are. Chicago guy encourages his friend to just go on and head to the shelter without him because the drive time would be too long. So his friend makes a break for it due to his confidence of the creature being gone. But that was the last message ever sent to his friend. As for the reason why Chicago guy couldn't have driven himself, well, something crushed his car, probably the megatheropod that's been circling the area. He could have heard the destruction of his car when he was there, but Mikey came in clutch and led the animal away. We get another time skip, this time to December 7th, 2023, where Chicago guy is traveling through the tunnels, which is apparently safer than moving up there. All the retail stores and shops have been looted and everyone took as much as they could. At some point he did make it to his friend, but he's now gone. One strange thing about one area in the tunnels, however, is that whenever he moves he keeps coming back to the same place. There was also a reptile face that was drawn on the wall that wasn't there 48 hours ago. I can't think of any other explanation besides some sort of cult, or some stupid person who could have also been traveling in the tunnels and decided to draw the image. After hearing some weird noises, Chicago guy decided maybe it's time to head back up to see how things are. But then he heard some soft laughter and he turned on his light in the tunnel, and there it was. A blind Suchomimus from the looks of it. As a matter of fact, it's not just blind, but has no eyes at all, and it was holding something fleshy in its mouth. Understandably, Chicago guy leaves the area and starts to travel back to the surface again. Now the big glowing lights are getting numerous and are changing color constantly. 2 weeks pass and we get an update on our guy's current situation. His phone camera had fried from the wormholes and he was being stalked by what he thinks are the same things that used to stalk him back at his house, but these ones apparently are bigger. Up to this point he had survived off of roadkill and found a shelter in one of the mausoleums in a cemetery because all of the food had been taken by people. Then he hears something outside. There's a bunch of people saying get down, and all of a sudden his feet start to feel dead as a wormhole opens up right next to him. All of those people suddenly vanished as well. I'm not sure if any dinosaur could have caused this. These folks could have been sucked in some wormhole to be honest, or a bunch of big raptors could have just wiped them out. On the bright side, Chicago guy's phone and camera was fully charged and was repaired. The anomaly fixed it, I guess. He takes a picture of the cemetery and thinks nothing of it, but as he looks closer he sees one of the raptors. This one appears to be bigger and has human remains in its jaws. Man, to be honest, I don't know what I do at this point. The world's overrun with dinosaurs and I'm constantly being stalked by the best killers the world has ever made. I'd probably crash out and charge at one. Anyway, my feelings aside, Chicago guy throws the rabbit corpse he had been eating so the raptor wouldn't find him, and he made a run for it. He wasn't sure if it saw him or not, but he knew there was more than one. Sure enough, the massive raptor did go to his location and swallow the rabbit whole. As he's panicking on where he would go without being caught, the raptors are distracted by the big lights and he makes his getaway. It was now night and he was stuck in the forest and forced to camp it out. Thankfully, Mikey was there in the trees making his weird wheezing noises with what seemed to be his flock. In the most adorable act of kindness I've ever seen, he brings a piece of fish to Chicago guy and breaks it in half and gives it to him. At that point, I'd give my life for Mikey. However, the little reunion was soon short-lived. The voices of people were heard, but both him and Mikey knew they were the large Dromaeosaurs. His flock took off, but faithful Mikey stayed with Chicago guy paralyzed by the voices.
Come here.
I'm not sure whose voice these things were imitating. It could have been an officer or a member of that secret organization with a globe on the suit. Who knows? The thing spot Chicago guy and Mikey and they both make a mad dash. Chicago guy runs into an abandoned strip mall and Mikey up a tree, which distracted the raptors from the humans so he could escape. During the chaos, Chicago guy managed to take a picture of the raptor's entire body. This Achillobator, Docoraptor, whatever raptor it was, could make me freeze if I saw it in real life. Being the sensible man that he is, Chicago guy heads back up to find Mikey, as they've gotten very close. When the day breaks, we see wormholes stretch for miles, but sadly Mikey wasn't found last night. During this night, however, he heard the sounds of an animal. It sounded vaguely human but not as clear as the voices made by the raptors. He decides to stay away from it as much as possible, but did end up finding the creature responsible for the sounds. I didn't know what the hell this thing was. With all of my knowledge of everything prehistoric, I couldn't think of a single thing that matched the description. At first I was trying my best to probably link it to some sort of mammal-like reptile or something, but I just couldn't find it. Apparently it's called a slingbeak, which is an African grey parrot that has evolved 45 million years in the future. So it turns out that, like Primeval, the wormholes can bring creatures from the future as well. Anyway, it just stood there eating a pumpkin, but as Chicago Guy was backing away, it opened up its mouth and hissed at him. My intrusive thoughts would have led me to throw a rock at it, but thankfully Chicago Guy is smart and just runs into the forest. He makes it to the road but then got absolutely clapped by a massive wormhole opening next to him. It made everything look distorted and damaged his camera at the time again. The pain it was causing him was so great that he passed out. When he woke up in January 2024, it was cold and a bunch of snow had fallen. He saw off in the distance a person that had been torn apart, but he didn't dare go and check. He was walking down the road and he saw a bunch of dead animals, from small dinosaurs and even amphibians, all the way to small pterosaurs. This is honestly a nice touch and would make sense. Most of these animals shown here had never experienced temperatures this low before in the Mesozoic, and their little bodies couldn't handle such a steep temperature drop overnight. The walk goes on, but then it hits both me and Chicago Guy. Where the hell is Mikey? Chicago Guy begins to search frantically for his little friend, hoping that he survived. But what happens next is truly depressing. Archisukas had the power to give life in his story, but sadly also take it. In the next photo we see Mikey's lifeless body stiff on the floor. He too was another animal that couldn't contend with the sudden temperature drop. It devastated Chicago Guy so much that he just sat there an hour with Mikey's dead body, saying that even though the world ended last month, his ended the moment he saw Mikey dead. He takes the fish Mikey had with him and wanders off defeated. Mikey's death affected Chicago Guy so much that he didn't care anymore. He heard a baby crying in the grass, which of course was the raptors. He was done running from these little shits and fought the thing. He grabbed a nearby rock and bashed the animal with it and used his flashlight to disorient it. He ended up getting pretty torn up during the fight, but eventually was saved by a pack of stray dogs that scared the raptor off. Weirdly enough, his own dog was a part of the pack. His dog Archie came over and said hello, but soon left with the pack as they moved on. I just want to let you guys know that some random prehistoric animal that had met the Chicago Guy was willing to sacrifice its life to save him, and left its own flock just to be near him. Yet this dog that he knew for years left him. I guess from an owner's point of view you'd want the best for your dog, but I'd still be sad. Chicago Guy sees the dog's head off and hopes they tear the raptor a new one. He passes out and wakes up the next morning where he sees his wounds are much worse than he thought. Barely able to open his eyes, he hears what sounds like Mikey, but it turns out to be his flock. The flock of microraptors even brought him a fish to share, but Chicago Guy's injuries were too severe. Nevertheless, they all stayed by his side, which made him cry as he didn't know how he could express his appreciation for them being with him in his final moments. His phone was now at 3% and so was he. His vision starts to fade, and Chicago Guy takes his final breath. And that is the end of part 1. There's also a sketch of Chicago Guy in his final moments. He died at 32, which seems so sad given he had so much more to live for. Honestly, an amazing story by Archisukas. The fact that he took his time to document all of these things and made actual props for the images is something that even some movie producers don't do. I really do recommend you guys go over there and check out his Twitter. He might also be posting stuff to YouTube as well, since I now found out he had a YouTube channel, which I'll be linking down below. There's an entire part 2 which has more terrifying dinosaurs and plot twists, so you can definitely expect me to be covering part 2 sometime this week or the next. Alright folks, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Still bummed out about Mikey's death, but what can you do? Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Welcome back folks, back here with part 2 of the WeirdBirds saga by Archisukas. I wasn't going to do part 2 so early on because I had another dinosaur video in mind, but on Thursday I'll be extremely busy at one of the most hated places in the USA, the DMV. I know this video is going to take a good amount of time to edit, so I decided to do it while I have the free time. Don't worry, so I'll upload the other dinosaur video the day after this one. Part 2 of this Twitter ARG is far more dark than the first one and made me unconsciously say what the fuck. My cousin had asked me what the hell I was looking at, but he doesn't really care about dinosaurs and just went on his day. In part 2 the same weird raptors of the first part are here, but they do some much more sinister things to children. By the way, this video is going to take a lot of time to edit, so it would really mean a lot to me if you guys could hit that subscribe button and comment down below. But hey, if you don't want it, that's fine. I'm just glad to have you here. Anyway, with that over, let's get on with the video. We begin with the perspective of a brand new character whose brother saw a dead isopod on the beach in Tampa, Florida, which later on got taken by some shorebirds. Her brother did find another one though that was alive. They decided not to take it home because it would be cruel apparently. But you best believe I'm nicking it. Do you know how cool it would be to say you have an isopod in your aquarium? I mean, it would just slowly move across the ground, but at least I can say I have one of the first life forms that ever walked on the earth. Or crawled I should say. The two were then shooed off the beach by people with globes on their shirts, and this time they are with the police. These were the same people who approached the Chicago guy in part 1, and it's a good thing he didn't answer the door, or that Twitter story would have been cut short. The brother did manage to take pics of a few more animals on the beach though. Some I honestly don't know, but I think one of them is a trilobite. Back at the house they were hearing some extremely weird noises from the sky, and they thought it could have been a pelican. You know, for all the documentaries I've watched, I've never once heard what a pelican sounds like. You know what, I'm just gonna pull it up. They do end up finding the source of the sounds, and everyone thought it was a really big toucan. And shit, I probably would think it's a toucan too if I didn't know much about prehistory. From the looks of the picture, it might be a vected Draco. I hope I didn't say that wrong. Don't know if it's actually what it is, but it sure does look similar. Her dad actually thought it was a gator and says once it doesn't do anything funny, he doesn't mind. Since he's a real Florida man, I was willing to shoot it dead if it steps out of line. As a Florida man myself, I totally agree. Hey, shout out to all of my fellow folks born in Florida but raised in the Caribbean. The prehistoric animals have now started to appear in the house. One of them appears to be some sort of ancient gecko or something, similar to the mossy leaf-tailed gecko. That would be the least of their worries though, as a snake made its way into the kitchen. I mean, I wouldn't normally think nothing of it since, you know, it's Florida. Hell, where I grew up it was worse. I almost got my ass beat by my dad because I saw a further lance in the gutter and lifted it up from the tail. To be honest, he had every right to be mad at me because I would watch people like Jeff Corwin grabbing snakes by the neck with ease, and I was about to do the same before he stopped me. What can I say? I was dumb at 12 years old. Anyway, back to the ARG. What makes this situation dangerous is that it's a prehistoric snake and it's almost certainly venomous. It sort of looks like a gaboon viper, and the dad tried to get rid of it with a broom. But everyone freaks out though when the snake starts to glide across the room like a bloody flying squirrel. Flying cockroaches are horrifying enough, but could you imagine what this would be like to people who are scared of snakes? We get to see a picture of it gliding across the room, having the time of its life. I know there are snakes that can glide alive today, but they don't look near as chunky as this guy. The only thing I could find that matched the description with the fossil records is a Zillantophis. The dad, being the Florida man he is, did in fact manage to swat it out of the sky and kill it though. Later on we see an image of chicken nuggets when everyone's eating dinner. Her brother ends up hogging a lot of them though, which I can't even blame him for. A serving of a pack is like 3 or 4. By the way, do you guys know just how many calories are in one serving? It's ridiculous. No wonder so many kids are fat. When it's time to take the trash out, her brother refuses because he saw some weird bird things running outside in the backyard. She decided to go out and take it out for him though, and says that he's just saying he saw those things because he didn't want to take out the trash. She wanted proof and he sent her a picture of the little raptors running outside. They appear to be velociraptors. It's a good thing they weren't the raptors from the first part though, at least not yet. He sent her a bunch of other pictures and posts showing prehistoric animals all around the country. We even see a post of Mikey before the unfortunate event. From the tweet, this girl is still in 2023, so I guess Mikey and Chicago guy are still alive at the time. Some users on Twitter tell them that Mikey and his kind are docile and nice to humans. Well, ain't that the truth? Her brother sends her another picture to get her reaction. This time it's a close-up of a massive raptor. Lil dude probably ran up to it, snapped a picture and ran into the bushes to hide. He has balls of steel, I'll give him that. Also, this proves my theory about the raptors in the first part not being Utahraptors. It also doesn't mean I was right, because I thought they were Austroraptors, but someone in the comments actually said they were some species of Troodon. Don't know how true that is, but I'm going with it. The brother said that the animal was 7 feet tall, but he's probably exaggerating because he's kinda short. So this raptor is either a Utahraptor or a very big Dacoraptor. She rightfully smacks her brother for putting himself in so much danger, and the dad calls the cops, but aren't able to get onto them because there's a cougar screaming outside apparently. They decided to finally hit the hay and get some rest. In the morning, the brother is playing Rust and the parents are upset about something. The mom is in a lot of pain, which could be related to the baby since it's 6 months in. Yeah, I'm sure it's the baby and not some mini eldritch horror feeding off of the still developing infant inside her belly. Anyway, the dad has to go leave and get some meds, and the girl finds a small pterosaur that's been chewed up by something. When her dad comes back, he picks up the mom and they head to the hospital because she's in agony and no one knows what's going on. So the two siblings decide to stay home until they come back. But in an update, it turns out that they will have to spend the night alone because their parents are staying in the hospital overnight. In some good news though, there were no scary or weird animal noises. Everything was going well until her brother told her to come upstairs. There was something staring at them through the sliding door, and the two remain as quiet as possible. It's them, the hell spawn of the series. Looks like they terrorize people aside from the Chicago guy. It's making a bunch of messed up sounds and started scratching at the door, so she decided to call the police and texted her dad while somehow making a makeshift flamethrower. The bastard broke through the glass door and started vocalizing. Not to mention it's not one but two apparently. As for the police, they not surprisingly don't pick up. The dad comes back, which relieves the two siblings, but when she checked her phone she sees a text from the dad along with the photo he took. The big raptor had a subadult alligator in its hands and was eating it. Surprisingly, it didn't really pay much attention to the dad, like it ignored him the same way it did the brother. When her dad finally does come back inside, he immediately grabs the gun. It is confirmed by her that the ones that broke into the house were much smaller than the big one, and they were the same things that led to the previous character's death. Even with a handgun, her dad is still shaking, visibly nervous, which you can't blame him for. There's a dinosaur outside straight up killing gators. Her brother's crying in the bathtub and the dad heads upstairs to get a shotgun and deal with the dinosaurs inside after he shares a reassuring moment with his daughter. There were gunshots heard and some shrieking with the dad yelling at the monsters. The siblings think their dad is coming downstairs because they hear footsteps, but it's not him. They hide in the bathroom behind the shower curtain holding each other. The thing came into the bathroom but is distracted by the house phone when it rings. The brother starts to sniffle behind her and they think they are actually gonna die. One of the things was stumbling when it walked in and sounded like it was bleeding heavily, implying the dad shot it. Before the second one decided to come any closer, they bomb rush it and flash it with the cameras in hope of disorienting it. This doesn't go as planned and leads to the animal pinning the brother to the floor. The dad came in and knocked it off of his child and locked himself in a room with a demonic dinosaur. Sadly, he ends up dying as the siblings just hear gurgling and the voice of their dad slowly fading. She managed to snap a picture of it after it killed her dad and immediately told everyone online to kill anything that looks like it. They were just about to go and get the gun because there were no other animals in the room, but then they heard talking. The raptors were saying their mom's name over and over. Honestly depressing. The poor guy was probably calling out to his wife or saying her name just before he was killed. They did grab the gun at the end and locked themselves in the upstairs bathroom after the thing died from a bullet sandwich. They ended up watching a pirated movie together to ease their minds. Weird way to cope, but at least it's better than me sitting on the toilet sobbing my eyes out. They woke up to a bunch of noise upstairs and they want to go ahead and investigate it. They drop their names in case they end up missing. The sister we've been seeing all this time is Bailey, who's 17, and her 13-year-old brother Max. The noise upstairs happened to be a bunch of horseshoe crabs which just spawned in the house. Apparently they find themselves locked in the bathroom again when they hear some people burst through the door and enter the house. Okay, so I couldn't really make out what it is they're saying in the audio because my ear infection is still not fully healed and I'm not raising the headphone volume to max, but apparently they were bad mouthing their dead father, which caused Max to cry. This would have been a valid crash out to be honest if Bailey decided to just go out and shoot them dead, especially after hearing her father torn apart in another room. Their voices sound modded, like one of those voice changers I refuse to pay for, and they're pressure washing or vacuuming the mess. They weren't too surprised with the mess though, since one of them said it's another common raptor attack that's been happening from coast to coast. So these guys do in fact know what's going on and are somewhat responsible for managing these prehistoric events. Hell, they can probably pinpoint exactly where these rift in times are happening. It is probably the reason they were in the house in the first place, because those horseshoe crabs randomly just appeared upstairs in the house from a portal or something, which they end up taking away in bags. The siblings decided to camp it out in the bathroom until they leave, but overhear them talking about different time periods and ruptures. These ruptures are more than likely with the things causing these animals from different periods to come to the present. They are more than likely in cahoots with the people they saw on the beach that were with the police. During all of this, Max managed to fall asleep. I do imagine hearing your father's dying screams and then the thing that killed your father calling your mother would make anyone tired. We now cut to January the 14th, 2024, and the wannabe super soldiers had left a while ago. As the siblings were trying to figure out how to make their way back to their mom, they found a bunch of left behind paper from the people in the trash. These are report cards they used to document the events that happened in the area and the species there too. And it turns out that I was right about the Utahraptor thing, because from the species they found in the report it said Utahraptor, and the guys who told me what the things were in part 1 were also right. They are troodontids. There is a bunch of other things there too with the reports. As for incidents above civilian fatalities, we see a bunch of decapitations, which is most likely from the troodons. And at the very bottom their responsibilities were to clean, rescue, capture and a few more things. But something was blacked out. The organization they work for is apparently called Weho? I don't know. At the back of the paper we can see that they are also responsible for cleaning up any trace of human fatalities and rescuing citizens in quotation marks. As for the risk, they are viruses they have to watch out for too along with the prehistoric fauna. There's another paper they found of a slingback, a raptor, and some sort of blob or something that gives these animals the features like color or something. Maybe. I don't know. Bailey is confused as to why all of the people under her comments are talking about the Chicago guy, which she doesn't get, and she thinks she's somehow stuck in the past or something. With the police lines being so busy, she was probably only now witnessing all of this prehistoric stuff, while Chicago guy had to deal with it for months. One of the ruptures appears and the siblings wisely decide to stay the hell away. Who knows, another theropod could jump out at any moment. Speaking of theropods, more of the Trungeons appear after another rupture opens right inside. So the two book it outside and try to figure out a way to reach their mom and somehow get onto the police. But then Max notices something in the retention pond. It has glowing red eyes and looks like a gator, but way bigger and has sharp needle-like teeth. The brother thinks that it could be a gharial, but remembers that they are much small and they're from India. I've realized that Max knows a good amount of things about dinosaurs, or animals in general by the way. He identified a few of the creatures before this too. Turns out it chased them for a bit but then pulled away. It was some sort of female crocodile morph and it was guarding her eggs. Not sure what kinds though. If I had to guess, I'd say a Ramphosuchus. There were more gator looking things out there too, but they looked like dogs and were on land. Bailey wonders why she didn't just shoot the big crocodile morph with her gun, but before that the other gator things ran straight at them. But they just went by. They were running from something, and from the looks of it they were battery focused. I hope I didn't say that wrong. But their head does look a lot like a Crapusuchus. It turns out that the things they were running from were the Trungeons, which you could hear vaguely in the background. The siblings managed to crawl into a pipe or something in the end but get rescued by an unlikely savior. The big crocodile morph was holding off the Trungeon because she thought her eggs were in danger. It wasn't deliberate, but the action did save the siblings from the dinosaurs. In the process they dropped the gun but didn't collect it until daybreak. When they were heading to the beach they saw a few bodies in a tree and one fell down to the ground right next to them. The moment I saw that I would have bolted. Where I grew up there was a big anaconda exhibit with some long pieces of wood at the top. There were anacondas of different sizes in there, from as low as 7 feet all the way to big females approaching 16. One of the smaller ones was climbing on top of the piece of wood but dropped to the floor, which made me freeze. It sounded too solid, like a heavy thud. As for the snake, don't worry, it went back to try again. They didn't specify that the bodies were human though, because it looked like some sort of primitive primate. Bailey says that the thing that killed them was in the tree. If I had to guess, the bodies was that of Australopithecus, and the thing sleeping next to the bodies in the trees was a Dinophilis or possibly an ancient leopard. We then cut to a picture of some massive birds in the sky, which Bailey says has the wingspan of a hang glider, so probably an Argentavis. Additionally, they didn't bother the siblings or seemed interested in them. They headed to the beach in hopes of finding the Weho people or the police to ask questions on where their mom is. They end up seeing a bunch of shimmering lights in the ocean though, which definitely means another rupture has happened out of there. During all of this, they hear some whale-like noises which makes them calm for a while. This temporary moment of peace is abruptly stopped by a massive rupture in the sky which causes their ears to ring and destroys Max's phone, but not hers. The same thing the Chicago guy had to experience, but they sometime repaired his phone as well. They decided to run from the beach because that's where the ear ringing lights are, but on the way the noises of the whale-like symphony got louder. It was getting dark and they decided to go check out the stores for food and hide. But then they saw some people on the beach yelling through a megaphone in what sounded like Spanish or Mandarin. They do end up staying on the beach though because it wasn't getting dark, something was just blocking the sun. As they were walking along the beach they see a half washed up body of an ichthyosaur. Something bit it in half. The thing responsible could have been the mosasaur they saw in the waves. It wasn't really a big species, around 25 or 30 feet long, but still big enough to murk them if they went to the water. It was shooting through the water chasing the plesiosaur. It did catch up to Nessie and launched him out of the water and eventually killed him, which turned the water red. In the end it dragged the plesiosaur away and left the area, at least for now. They decided to walk up to some birds, but something was off. They didn't show an ounce of fear, they just stood there. But then the source of the whale-like noises appeared. It's some sort of giant nature spirit. It attracted the birds and made Max unconsciously walk towards it. It was hundreds of feet tall and it was just swinging its neck. Then out of the haze a big sauropod appeared which made the two ecstatic. And hey, ordinarily I'd think a theropod would be way cooler, but given the situation I heard before is probably better. They didn't get to enjoy too long though, because the moment they turned around, the Trungeon was there. They followed the kids. There was a second one that was in the grass. They were tossing some poor kid's body around and made sure Max and Bailey could see it. That's honestly crazy. Like, a lot of these animals we see can be dangerous, and if they do kill people, it's expected, but these trungeons are just malicious. In part 1, they played some sick games like leaving the severed foot of a child right in front of Chicago guy's home, and then shouting the phrases of a mother and daughter it killed at him. Now they are making sure these two see the child they were tearing apart, almost as though they were saying this is what's gonna happen to you in a few. When Max shot the gun at them and missed, the freak started making gunshot noises right back at him. They just kept eating the child right in front of the siblings. As for the big nature spirit thing, it just stood there. The siblings did manage to escape by treading through the water because the trungeons won't follow, but they couldn't go too deep because the mosasaurus was still there. The big spirit thing had left, and the two stayed there in the water until the trungeons left. And in a shocking turn of events, the trungeon were actually eating a classmate identified called CJ by Max. Like, did they know Max and the kid they were eating had some sort of relation? I don't know. Max and his sister decided to finally go to the store because they were starving, and along the way found a picture of one of the stormtroop impersonators. They did make it into one of the stores, and it actually had some good food, but they hear some creaking and noises from the ceiling. Suddenly the ceiling broke and scared the shit out of Bailey. Under the ground there was a fan attached with a piece of rope around the woman's neck. This poor woman probably couldn't take this anymore and decided to just end it. Who knows what could have been the cause? It could be anything from her child or family killed by the dinosaurs all the way to just the mental stress of everything happening all around her. The siblings left the store after that unsightly situation and ended up back on the beach, where police and the people in the suits were. But before they could meet them, they drove off in their loud buggies. They did leave behind a sketchbook though, of some dinosaurs and some drawings of the creatures that aren't from the fossil records, similarly to the slingback, which in part 1 is an evolved African grey. This could be an evolved version of something else too. Bailey and Max did follow them from a distance just to see what they would do, and ended up seeing them haul away something in a crate and drive off. Not to mention some more weird stuff was happening. None of the animals on the beach were afraid of the two, hardly even acknowledging their presence. Fast forward, it's now the 16th of January 2024. They found some more animals washed up on the beach, including a mosasaur. Although this one is smaller than the one they saw and was ripped open by something, either a larger mosasaur or a pliosaur. Because as I look back at this image, the thing is more blue than the mosasaur and has a more elongated head. But who knows, whatever it was, it made the ocean 10 times worse. Later on they saw the Utahraptor with its baby, and it had the head of one of the trungeons in its mouth. When I saw this, I started grooving. It brings me so much joy to see one of these little shits die. Everything seems to hate them too. The slingbeaks hate them, and in part 1 something was just beheading a bunch of them. I guess even dinosaurs find these trungeons absolutely repulsive, and just like in early interactions, it didn't attack the siblings. It was more tolerant of humans than any other animal. Some more time passes and they end up seeing one of the people with armor like in the drawing. He was waving at them and shouting in Spanish with a weird monotone. Naturally the siblings sprinted away from him, and he did give chase for a while but gave up and answered his phone. Turns out he was part of the Weho company, but there was no real documentation of his organization online. Then they saw something truly horrifying. A old guy is missing his lower body and was on the beach. If I had to guess, one of the big marine reptiles did this. I don't think the trungeons could have cut this clean. Plus it looks like the ichthyosaur corpse they saw earlier. Poor guy could have been in the water trying to avoid the trungeon like the siblings, but went too deep and got caught by one of the big marine reptiles. But then again, it could be a large theropod like the one they saw in the sketch earlier. So they decided to leave the beach altogether and head to the store. But the sun is now starting to set despite it only being 11 PM. Whatever these ruptures are, they are affecting the way our Earth operates as a whole right now. They hear helicopters and they have the Weho logo on them, so they decide to hide it out in the store. But the store is still running somehow and looks like no damage has been done inside. As they were looking for canned food, some of the lights started to cut off, and they see whatever the hell this is. My mind can't even begin to comprehend what this could be. It had 7 legs and could teleport or move so fast it looks like it can. The siblings try to leave, but then the power completely goes out and the two abominations start to fight on the shelves. When they were distracted, the two siblings do end up making a run for it though, with food in their hands, but it was still dark. As they were walking, some weird mammal made a noise and scared Bailey. They screamed at it and it screamed back at them, because both parties were just scared. It ended up falling on Max and just walked away and gave them a side eye, which made them laugh. I'd probably have the same reaction too, but seconds later I'd remember the earth is now filled with dinosaurs and eldritch horrors that can take me out at any time. The weird singing was back, which means the nature spirit was around, and the weird hyenodon looking thing started to make more noise. In the earlier sketches, this could have been the thing that was shown changing color or making some sort of alterations to the creature's makeup. I don't know if this thing just decided that humans are just destroying the planet, so it brought back the biggest menaces from both the past and the future to wipe us out. The siblings fell asleep but were woken up by the people in the armor sweeping through the area. In addition to that, there's something else out there. I don't know what this is, but it's giving the stormtrooper guys one hell of a time. You can hear guns firing and the dying screams of some of the people. Bailey and her brother left and saw the remains of a massacre. A bunch of dead Weho men and women with shattered armor and some blue blood mixed in with theirs. Some of them were chewed to the bone. So it's pretty safe to say that whatever wiped them out isn't from this world, or from the future. We get a little time skip and it starts off with sad news. Max had been caught by one of the trungeons, who were mimicking the cries of a baby and started slamming Max to the ground over and over again. Ever since that, Max had to be carried because he was now paralyzed. As for the thing that attacked him, Bailey shot it dead. She said demon, but I can't tell if it was actually the trungeon or one of those things they saw in the store. Who knows, maybe they could impersonate humans too. With options running low, she decides to take her brother to the beach and let Weho take over, since the papers did say that they rescue people. They made it to the beach, but no Weho people were there, and Max's condition was getting worse. He's in so much pain that the wind blowing on his skin hurts. Even the clothes used on him as a tourniquet was now soaked in blood. In light of the current situation, they decided to collect shells together, which made them remember the good old times when things were, normal. They end up sitting on the beach just looking at some birds. There was even an ichthyornis flying in the sky. Sometime later we see that her phone had died and Max's condition had gotten much worse. She had to hand feed him and she was also feeling weird tingling sensations that actually caused her pain. Thankfully they end up finding some people on the beach. It was one of those Weho guys and encouraged them to come with him because the ruptures had gotten worse. He took Max into his arms carefully and they went into the helicopter. When Bailey asked about the pictures, he said that it doesn't concern her. But then she asked about her mother and his demeanor entirely changed when she mentioned her mother was pregnant. Later on he sent her a photo but doesn't want to talk about it. In the most terrifying turns of events I've ever seen, an image of our unborn sibling was seen being eaten by something. I don't know what the hell it is, but according to Archisukas, those weird areas in the front are its eyes and more up are the mouth parts. It looks like a crab but it isn't. We can literally see it eating the developing baby. The super soldiers say that it's not her mom specifically, but her mom's fate was still not good. Apparently her mother had jumped from the hospital and ended things because she knew her husband was dead and thought that the two siblings were too, because they were listed as dead. She also did this because her belly had shrunk, which means whatever that thing was is eating the developing infants of mothers all across the country, which could explain the mysterious pain their mother was feeling early on in the story. This honestly made me so sad. Not as sad as Mikey's dead, but still sad. The only thing I could compare this feeling with was when I watched Devil Cry Baby. So many people died you never thought would have died in that show, and it leaves a weird feeling in your stomach. In the next tweet we see a picture of a big sauropod that had trampled the helicopter. They were heading towards some sort of bunker-like thing. They continued to push deeper and deeper and Bailey can't see a thing, but the Weho people could. One in the back had Max in their arms and another has a syringe. That was the last text we got of Bailey. Well, the actual Bailey. The next text is definitely not her. It says Bailey Kaminsky here. Everything was just an art project and that all the photos are just drawings. It says that everything was just for fun and that she might delete later. LOL. It turns out that the thing in the syringe was actually snake venom from the gliding snake that had non-lethal properties. Probably anesthesia. What's weird though is that they tried to play this all off. Why will they portray this as fake even though it's happening everywhere? Unless of course this in fact isn't happening everywhere or somehow hasn't hit the locations of some of the viewers in the timeline yet. Let me know what you guys think could be the reason in the comments. That brings us to the end of WeirdBirds Part 2, and once again it was a 10 out of 10. I'll be honest, I'm not really a big reading guy, but this had me hella invested. I don't know if there's a part 3 out there, but if there is, please let me know. The last thread did say that there's more stuff coming, so I assume there is. Whatever the case may be, go and check out Archisukas' Twitter and support him so we can keep getting stuff like this. I'll leave his info in the description below. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Look at me. Who loves you? Okay? You're gonna be okay. Your brother's gonna be okay.